Join Radio Mount Oriel for your exciting evening program, CTN Inside Salon.
Ado and welcome to the program CTN's Inside Salon, where they come out na Radio Mount Oriel Frabe College on FM 107.3. CTN Inside Salon, a program where they look at different issues them and also can discuss on their issues and day. Inside the program today, we go look inside the pre-legislative session on IMC Act 2020 and the 1965 Public Order Amendment Act 2020. I go bring on different clip from different people them with regards this particular pre-legislative session on IMC Act 2020 and the 1965 Public Order Amendment Act 2020. Me, where they make the program reach you, be your name, Nalahai Jackson. The 1965 Public Order Act, na law we don't affect journalists them for do them work na the country. Most of the president them we don't rule this country. Don't they promise for repeal this law, but say now, this law still there in our law book. Inside December last year, the current government through the Ministry of Information and Communication they take this law na parliament. From a parliament go repeal the law. But this move by the government not be all water as parliament. This bienten be don't throw away this law na do. This Monday, July 13, the government through the Ministry of Information and Communication they take this law back na parliament. Outside member of parliament, civil society organization and stakeholder them na the media be dey na parliament for talk about this law. Honorable Matthew Numa na the leader for government business na Salon Parliament. Inside you talk, e be start for talk but the reason why them be throw away this law na do.
And when we started this whole business, first we have procedures in parliament. When I took over, I made a commitment to my colleagues here that I will follow the board declaration. And what we have of the board declaration? The board declaration is to work within the ambit of the procedures in parliament. And I don't want to renege on that. So when I called for the standing orders, I discussed first with the leader of the opposition and I said, what are we going to do in the next session? He said, let us follow the procedures. So when I stood in the well, I withdrew the bill using the standing order section 59(2) of the standing orders. We had people vilifying us. We had innuendos and aspersions against us, but thank God, the intention I had at that time when I withdrew the bill is what we are here for today, to follow proper procedures. For us, as long as our conscience are clear, as long as we are doing the right thing within the ambit of the law, we don't pay too much attention to what people are saying, because we are not going to allow them to distract us. So what we are having here today is what I did in connection with Honorable Devan and his team for the pre-legislative committee, with the clerk, bringing everybody under one roof with divergent views to have a convergent view. That's why we are here today. I received letters, petitions from other members who are very active. They wrote to me privately and copied all the leaders and the Speaker of Parliament. Today we are here under this roof to discuss this bill. We are here under this roof to look at how do we repeal and what do we have. We make law for the good of all, not for a set of people. We cannot have perfect law, but if we all sit here today and discuss our differences in connection with this bill, we can have a better bill and a better law. But the enactment of this, as I said, before I raise questions about what is public interest, bring out your views here. Look out for the interpretations. If you look at section 12 of the bill, we have subsection 2G, talks about procedures, talks about the media codes of practice. We read that one in tandem with section 43 of the same bill we have the question, the IMCB I'm talking about regulations. I'm bringing this forward to tell you that we have read most of these things. And again, what you did not bring to us that we are going to discuss is a frank discussion and frank interaction we are going to have there today. Whilst we are talking about having 1 year for license renewal, NATCOM Act, Section 39 of 31 of the Act, talking about if you don't use your license for 2 years, you withdraw that one. So Mr. Minister is here. We want to all of these divergent views, all of these, because there must be a conformity in law. If you have to make law today, there must be conformity with existing laws. So we are here to address all of these issues. I'm here to register our commitment, what we started, without abrogating procedure. work within the ambit of the law. As a total slap president, I said I've registered my commitment now as deputy leader, information chairman. I said I've worked with you assiduously for us to reach at this point. And I want to register my commitment and with that of the minister. Though I don't have the authority to talk for him, but I think in Parliament, when the bill is in front of us, we talk for government and we talk for the people surrounding. We are not here to make political points, but we are here to have a decent bill at the end of it, which will be an act of Parliament for the interest of our people of Sierra Leone. We are not here to satisfy one set of people, but we're here to work in the interest of Sierra Leoneans. We are not here to vilify anybody, but we work to have a perfect, better law that all of us can work with and protect the interests of Sierra Leoneans. Today, honorable opposition leader, my colleagues, thank you all for coming. Though we started late because of things beyond our control, but deliberately I have cited various provisions in the bill we have in front of us, cited the various provisions, so that just try to tease your mind at the things that we are looking forward for us to discuss today. That's why I cited the provisions. And we bring it to speed if you don't take these provisions very, very seriously. But let me see. Your point, what you have is very important to us. Your concerns are very important to us. As I said, there's no perfection in humanity. So don't say we have written letters to members of Parliament, they are not going to take it seriously. This is part of the consultation to have a better bill or a better act of Parliament. An act of Parliament should be an inclusive one. The one you have for the sexual offences, we have serious of divergent views. People are going all over, I told you, the BBC, people are giving their views. The women are very active. The civil society groups are very active too. But we brought them under one roof. Look, let us discuss. In the interest of, don't take a particular point. Get the spirit of the bill and the intent of the bill. If you have the spirit of the bill, with all the legal professionals we have amongst us, they can direct us where we are going to land on the comfortable platform. So all of us can contribute. Don't be ashamed to make your point very clear. Nobody is going to go at you here. Nobody is going to shout at you. When you make your point, you are going to take down your point. It is not a bill, it is a start of the negotiations. That's why I said, Mr. Clark, invite all people interested in this bill. That's what you have done in the interest of the true sense of Sierra Leone. Honorable opposition leader, sir, let me read this provision to register our commitment again in the repeal. This is just a process leading to the repeal. I read. The purpose of the Public Order Act, Act number 46 of 1965, in its entirety, was not necessarily to muzzle journalists or curtail press freedom as people mostly perceive it to be. There are many other issues that this act consolidates and tries to address. Example, lawlessness, loitering, trade disputes, protection of public and private properties, etc., etc. But judging from the kind of coverage the issues of libel, quote, and seditious, quote, attracted the Sierra Leone public to push into believing that the act deals with nothing else but these two issues. It is only part 5 of the act that deals with libel and sedition, and that is the part that government has pledged to repeal, and that is what is before Parliament. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Minister, we have in front of us the bill, the Public Order Amendment Act 2020, being an act of Parliament to amend the Public Order Act 1965, Act number 46 of 1965, by repealing Part 5 star, which deals with the defamatory and seditious libel, and to provide for other related matters. So that is what is in front of us. So I made that one clear because I want us to have a common view in dealing with this issue. I want us to discuss like Sierra Leoneans, because our similarities are far greater than our differences, to have a conclusive end so that we can have a better act.
A name na Honorable Martin Yuma, the leader for government business na Salone Parliament. If you gist they join the program, not forget to say they listen to CTN's Inside Salone, where they reach you from Radio Mount 12 Fabe College on FM 107.3. And inside the program today, we will look inside the pre-legislative session on IMC Act 2020 and the 1965 Public Order Amendment Act 2020. Cheno Majuba, na the minority leader for the main opposition All People's Congress Party in Parliament. Now this himself beget for say for the repeal process.
The perception that was created the last time when the leader of government business announced the withdrawal of the very bill he has just mentioned, that is the Public Order Amendment Act, the very bill he just mentioned. We want to encourage all interested parties, not just the media, but those who are participating in the process of informing people outside the media platform. It is always good for us to be hanging heads and having consultations. The perception that was created gave the wrong picture. As the leader of government business said, all he did on that day was to comply with what our standing order said. And what it says has to be respected in the House. That does not mean we are not ready to proceed with the amendment itself. But had we done otherwise, we will have done something wrong, and whatever that will have come out of that would not have been in the best interest of the people of Sierra Leone. And secondly, and perhaps most importantly also, as I said, we make laws not for ourselves, not for a sect, but for the people of Sierra Leone. And basically in making those laws, we have to be very, very careful not to protect the interests of a few and forget about the majority. We want to assure you that since you have the expertise, we want to benefit from it. But we will also want justifications. It is not because I don't want A, so A should not be there. A should not be there for a reason, not because I don't want it. You must justify positions in assisting us. Otherwise, we've been elected to represent people, and those people we are representing, we must secure and protect their interests. That is why we're here. But again, going forward, we want to encourage all of you, more so those members of the Fourth Estate, that this is your house. Let us interact, let us engage, let us consult each other. You have access to the pen or the airwaves. Don't use that to muzzle us. We are hardly muzzled, because we have been elected by people to represent them. But we are pleading with you, we need your services, we need your expertise. But in doing that, please endeavor to consult. We are all your brothers and sisters here. We are not strangers. We are just honorable members of parliament, but most importantly, we are your representatives. We are here to serve you. But if you keep away from us whilst we're looking for you, and you form opinions without consultations, it will not benefit any one of us. And again, I want to thank the minister, because the last time he was frustrated when the bill was sent out. But I told him, Mr. Minister, whether the media chases you or not, we have to follow our procedures. But it was quick for him to understand. So I want to thank him for that. And we want to assure you that we are not saying we will not expedite the process. But whatever speed we are going to use will be the speed that is expected from the public. We want to make sure that whatever job we do will stand the test of time.
Hamed Said Nasrallah, now the president for the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, inside Yon talk. It be appeal to member of parliament them for repeal the law. This is say go help develop the media na the country.
The first is to repeal the criminal libel laws and pass the new IMC bill. The second is to amend certain sections of the IMC bill, which is before you now, to bring it into conformity with the spirit and letters of the 1991 Constitution. On the criminal libel, let me say that on the international level, the criminal libel laws are an embarrassment to our country, Sierra Leone, and it will continue to do so, to be so until we repeal them. For several sessions of the United Nations Human Rights Council, where it periodically reviews our human rights records, our country's representatives have been called out that we are in breach of several international treaties, among which are the International Convention on Human and People's Rights, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, to name just a few. Today, we begin the process of ending the embarrassment for our diplomatic representatives who sit quietly, sometimes bow their heads in shame as they are spoken down upon. Again, we know everybody wants the media to develop, but let me take or make bold to say the blackmail and corruption that you accuse the media of can be minimized, if not end, if the media practitioners are paid well. This can only happen if the door is open to business to invest in the media. As it stands, any businessman who dares to invest in the media stands the risk of going to jail for what his reporters might have written. We say remove the criminal libel laws and allow the economic forces to regulate the media. That way, any businessman who invests, for example, over 100 million in media, will promptly sack or fire any errant editor who publishes anything that will cause him, the proprietor, to be taken to court and fined. That is self-regulation, and that is the conversation which led to the setting up of the IMC in 2000. There is another vexed issue, which is on character assassination. On this, we stand with you. No one should be allowed to rob a man of his good name. However, our research over the years shows that majority of the criminal libel laws cases are filed by politicians, and majority of the victims are journalists. Let me hasten to say that when the public learns that a politician has locked up a journalist, they do not care to find out why. They do not stop to ask the question whether the journalist was right or wrong. What the public does is immediately support the journalist, and the politician becomes the subject of derision and hate. What we offer, and sadly has always been around, is a restoration of dignity by compelling the media house to not only publish the retraction itself, but also pay other media houses to do the same, so that the retraction gets a wider coverage than the offending article or broadcast. Additionally, it offers compensation, which the criminal libel law does not prescribe for. The civil libel laws have always been around, and if used, the government can be accused of muzzling the press. The criminal libel law has closed the biggest, best-run establishment owned by native Sierra Leoneans, for example, the Atlantic Printers. Nowadays, the big contracts of printing exercise books and textbooks for the free quality education are won by foreign printing enterprises. We urge you to think Sierra Leone and help our own people to develop our local capacities, not kill them. This is the true spirit of the local content policy. These days, the question is being asked, why are so few women in top positions in the media? The simple answer is that they are afraid of going to jail. We the men can cope, but women just cannot. So please repeal so that more women can come into the profession and hold top positions in the media. It is called affirmative action. On the IMC bill, before the bill was withdrawn, the calls we are hearing from Parliament was that you need safeguards, you need assurances. Before you now is the IMC bill. This bill contains all the safeguards you have been asking for. At the level of SLAG, we support the enforcement of these measures. But let me sound a note of caution. Already, I know for a fact that your colleague MPs now own radio stations from the edges of the Liberian border in Pujaun right through to Freetown and the rest of the country. So when you deliberate on the IMC bill, let us all be cautious so that we make laws that are not only for journalists, but for MPs as well as a general citizen. In Ghana, after the criminal libel law was repealed, a lot of politicians opened radio stations. So much so that their IMC bill, which had been drafted and was waiting to be taken to Parliament, is now gathering trust as the politicians are no longer interested. I know you are wiser, and that is why you have asked for both of these documents to be brought here. We wish to lobby you on the specifics, which largely has to do with maintaining our SLAG representative on the board of the IMC, including sole proprietorship as an option to register and cut down on the bureaucracy of registration and monitoring. We believe IMC will not become an audit firm and start demanding our accounts and looking at them as and when they fail. IMC should restrict themselves to regulating the practice and ethics of the profession and help the media to develop. NACIT has a specialized court now, and also the NRA. When these institutions act on their own, nobody accuses them of muzzling the press. But when IMC starts to do the work of NACIT and NRA, it is seen as a ploy by government to muzzle the press. So we urge you to reject this direction. The IMC must not be overburdened with the work of other statutory bodies if it is to be effective and efficient. When it is practiced well, everybody enjoys it. But when it is practiced bad, it is bad. Ghana repealed the criminal libel, and the state is still functioning. Nigeria is into their second year after their repeal, and the state has not gone up in flames. In fact, Nigeria do not have an IMC. So let me end by saying, in every profession there are bad eggs. From politics to police, from teachers to lawyers, from surgeons to statesmen. What we are asking you to do is not to throw out the baby with the bathwater. The water is dirty, but the baby has life and will grow. Help us make that baby grow. We are in this together.
In name na Ahmed Said Nazgala, the president for the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, with the talk inside that clip. The Media Reform Coordinating Group. Now, one part the media organization them, we don't push for reform the media at the country. Dr. Francis Soa, na the chairman for the group. Ebi get this for say.
For us as MRCG, we are happy for today's session. Honorable members, for 55 years, a giant has stood on top of the media fraternity and industry. It may be like Goliath in the Bible, or in more recent times, it can be likened to the police officer who knelt on George Floyd's neck for nearly 8 minutes. Floyd called for help, but got none. Honorable members, today we in the media are calling for help like Floyd. Our 8 minutes have started long ago. We may be in our final last minutes. The media industry, like Floyd, is shouting it can't breathe. Unlike Floyd, we at the MRCG, comprising 10 national media organizations, are optimistic that our call is being heeded. We are confident that we will breathe. We take note of Cabinet's approval to repeal the 55-year-old legislation, the Public Order Act No. 46 of 1965. We also note that today's pre-legislative hearing is another step towards the repeal process. We are almost there, we believe. Honorable members, we are not in any way calling for power without responsibility. This is seen in the moves the MRCG has made to popularize the civil libel provisions in the Civil Defamation Ordinance of 1961, the support to the review of the IMC Act and the Media Code of Practice, the SLAGE Code of Ethics, and the Disciplinary Committee of SLAGE. This is definitely a process, honorable members. We will continue to work with the different partners to provide the necessary capacity building for the media in the post-repeal era. We'll be bold to call out our colleagues who will cross the line. We'll do our best to promote a free and responsible press. Like I said in one of my articles, let's do this repeal for God and country. Our next door neighbor has done it, even where they do not have a regulatory body like the IMC, which we have. History will be kind to this third session of the 5th Parliament of the Republic of Sierra Leone if it repeals this bill and passes progressive media legislation. You will have saved the media from the final minutes of the 8 minutes journey to death. Let the media breathe.
A name na Dr. Francis Soa, chairman for the Media Reform Coordinating Group. If you just join the program, don't forget to listen to CTN's Inside Salon, where they reach you from Radio Mount 12 Frabe College on FM 107.3. And inside the program today, we will look at the pre-legislative session on IMC Act 2020 and the 1965 Public Order Amendment Act 2020. Me, where they make the program reach you. Me, your name, Nalahai Jackson. Now, so we'll go tap first the program as we go in for the news summary.
Join Radio Mount Oriel for your exciting evening program CTN Inside Salon.
Welcome to the second half of the program CTN's Inside Salon, where they reach you from Radio Mount 12 Frabe College on FM 107.3. And me, where they make the program reach you, me your name, Nalahai Jackson. Inside the program today, we will look at the pre-legislative session on the IMC Act 2020 and the 1965 Public Order Amendment Act 2020. The civil society organization now people them we done the talk about certain issues in the country. A representative from the Center for Accountability and Rule of Law beget this for say inside the discussion.
I want to thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to be part of this process this morning, and to quickly remind of the fact that I'm here in double trust, first as a citizen of this country and second as an activist. We have decided to accompany SLAGE on this process because for us, we also see ourselves as beneficiaries of this movie process. In other words, I'm saying clearly here that there have been instances where we have been victims of the circumstance. So therefore, we don't want to squarely leave this one to the hands of SLAGE. We have decided to be part of this process. Now, I'm here again this morning to kindly remind government of its commitment because as this popular scene is being trumpeted over Sierra Leone, that we have a talk and do president. That's the more reason why we want to have this as an opportunity to kindly remind our talk and do president again of his manifesto commitment that was made a couple of months back when he had really wanted for us to vote him to assume the highest office of the land. So we are here again to kindly remind him that at some point in time, he made it very clear in the manifesto that when once you are seeing the reins of governance in Sierra Leone, this thing will be part of your responsibilities and will be something that you clearly give attention to, and it becomes a thing of the past. So that's why we are here this morning to remind them that we really want us to repeal this law. Because for us, we know having this law in our country doesn't really match to the full respect of the tenets of democracy. So that's the reason why we are calling out for its repeal. Because we know once it's repealed, then that will definitely add to the respect of the democratic principles of Sierra Leone. And second, and which is the most important again, is the fact that we really want to have a functional and well-supported IMC. Let us not have an IMC for the sake of having an IMC. But let us have an IMC that could be well supported, well empowered, and adequately functioning. Because for me, or for us as CSOs, when we want to have an IMC that clearly works, you know, for most of these things that we are really clamoring around, you know, it now becomes the responsibility of the IMC. So that's the reason why we are saying, let's go back and see reasons and definitely repeal this law. And again, it's for us, it's an opportunity, it's a privilege, because there are MPs who used to be our colleagues. They are our former colleagues. They used to be with us. Today, we are here as MPs. So we see this as an opportunity again, coming to you, talking to you, pleading with you to ensure that this law is being repealed. So at the end of the day, remember, you have to be at some point in time in the court and out of the court. So when once you come back to us again, let's really point at the things that we did at some point in time that, no, it was during your own tenure, that we all came together, we really hung heads and decided to move on this bill. So on that note, I really don't want to go beyond the limit that has been given to me. I want to thank you very much for your attention and hope and pray that this is going to be a thing of the past. Thank you very much.
One of the responsibility of the Sierra Leone police now for enforce law and order in the country. ASP Mustafa Solomon Kumbe, now the Director of Operation at the Sierra Leone Police, begin the position of the Sierra Leone Police on the IMC Act 2020 and the 1965 Public Order Amendment Act 2020.
The police, as all of us can recall, had always been at the crossroads when dealing with enforcement of the law. In maintaining an equilibrium between the right of citizens and the general public, we have often the center of conflict. Without belaboring myself, I'm here this morning specifically to give the SAP position on both the IMC and the repeal of the Criminal Libel Act. The Part 5 of the Act number 46 of 1965, under the rubric defamatory and seditious libel, makes a person criminally liable for malicious publications of defamatory matter, especially when seen to be false. Interestingly, truth is not even considered a defense in the given circumstance. Also, Section 33A to D also criminalizes sedition in whatever form. Part 5 of the Criminal Procedure Act is criminalized. It stands to reason that anyone suspected of having committed sin could be arrested, detained, investigated, prosecuted, and or possibly imprisoned. This brings to bear the functions of the Sierra Leone Police as provided by the Police Act of 1964 and the 1991 Constitution of Sierra Leone. Among other things, the police have the power to protect life and property, maintain law and order, enforce relevant laws, apprehend and prosecute offenders, detect and prevent crime. In effect, the police are bestowed with the power to arrest, detain, search, investigate, and prosecute whilst in the lawful execution of their functions. The question that comes to mind is this: why was the police arresting journalists for allegedly publishing any false matter? The answer is simple. The law allowed the police to do so because the act of journalists publishing false information was and still considered a criminal act as provided for by the law. Section 17(1) gives the power to detained for 72 hours or 10 days. The Sierra Leone Association of Journalists is rightly advocating for Part 5 to be decriminalized. Please note that the SFP will not stand in the way of decriminalizing Part 5. What the SFP is concerned about is this: what could be the remedy when the law is repealed? We expect strong safeguards against people and reputation. What the SFP is concerned about is that there is no denying the fact that people are still going to be defamed and blackmailed, etc. So, in view of the position of the SFP, we provide some recommendations. We believe that SLAG will advance the cause of self-regulation through the Independent Media Commission. In that regard, the Commission should be strengthened enough to bite and bite hard where necessary. Should have license to practice, and their license will be withdrawn for continuous breaches. There needs to have a dedicated court that could expeditiously adjudicate over matters. Last, journalists should be fully employed with attendant benefits. This could minimize bad journalism.
If you just join the program, don't forget to listen to CTN's Inside Salon, where they reach you from Radio Mount 12 Frabe College on FM 107.3. And me where they make the program reach you, my name Nalahai Jackson. Inside the program today, we look inside the pre-legislative session on the IMC Act 2020 and the 1965 Public Order Amendment Act 2020. Mohamed Rahman Soare, now the Minister of Information and Communication, inside your talk, it be highlight some of the changes them where they don't make inside the new IMC Act, and also be talk about the commitment of the government for repeal the 1965 Public Order Act.
There are people who literally made it a preoccupation. They had to work with SLAG and other bodies before me to do this repeal. He mentioned Professor Kari, Blyden Johnston, Jenkins Johnston of blessed memory. I quite remember one of the former presidents of SLAG. I'm sure he's retired on the fat end of service benefits now, Mr. Umar Fofana. He literally kept, his there for over 1 year until the repeal it was done. Sadly enough, he had to get a haircut before today that we are starting the real journey towards the repeal. So to all of you, to Kelvin Luis, who is also be equally passionate about this repeal process, to IBN. His Excellency the President is quite passionate about this repeal process. During the campaign run, he mentioned that once elected president, he will ensure that he expunges the criminal libel from our law books, irrespective of the great personal hurt that he has been subjected to. And being a man of his words, he has directed, I must work with all of you, all of us here, to ensure that this repeal process happens. So that's why I am particularly heartened that we have embarked on another leg of this very, very important and critical journey. Let me speak a few things about, give you a few highlights about the IMC bill. Why I will not devote a lot of time to talk about the repeal process is because it's about removing it, right? We all are aware of the very atrocious nature of the 1965 Part 5 of the 1965 Public Order Act. We are all aware of its very, very atrocious nature, so no need going back to that. I will focus, like I have been urged by the leader of the opposition, focus for the most part on the IMC bill, because that is what is coming in. Again, let me from the onset make it clear, like has been noted before me, that it is not a precondition for the repeal process, right? But we are of the firm opinion, all of us in this together, that the IMC has to be rebooted, it has to be strengthened, so that it's able to support independent professional journalism. Because many are most likely just to look at, the areas that brings journalists in. The object is really to ensure it promotes professional journalism in a democratic context. So I needed to note that. So there are key highlights of the IMC bill that I want to talk about before I come to the presentation. What is going to make it different from the previous IMC? In the previous IMC, there was no attention paid to the practitioners themselves. This new IMC bill clearly has a human face. It now makes provision for the payment of salaries to media practitioners. I mean, for the longest time, journalists, many journalists, about 90 or so percent, don't ask me where I got my statistics from, about 90 or so percent of media practitioners are not paid salaries. I mean, that's almost criminal, right? Basically, the law tells me that as long as there's an employer-employee relationship between you and somebody, that person is entitled to salaries. Again, under the National Social Security and Insurance Trust Scheme, employees are supposed to be paid, their employers should pay NACIT contributions for them, at least 10% of their gross earnings. At the same time, 5% should be deducted from the employees themselves to save for a rainy day. I mean, the current state of the media practice is a little less than despicable for many practitioners. I have seen practitioners who have been in this business for 30, 40 years running, who still coast. Right? I'm not sure these are dignified people, professionals in their own right. They don't do it because they want to have it as, a way of life, but simply because in their time, no provision was ever made for them for a rainy day. So it is for reasons like this that we insist that we have to make salary payments a requirement in the new media landscape. And this has been, there's a consensus around this. We have had no complaints. There were initial who was around it, but today I'm happy to report that the media and us are in it together. We all understand the significance of that. Apart from that, we as government also believe that, because journalists play such a key and critical role, because they hold the high and the mighty to account, particularly those in leadership positions in the various media outlets. You're talking about radio station managers, talking about editors of newspapers. We think that is too serious a position to be held by people who have not invested in anything, who have not invested in professional development, be it by way of acquiring a university degree, a diploma, or whatever it is. I note that in the draft bill, we noted graduate in mass communication. We have agreed it can be any discipline, right? But the one thing that we still encourage SLAJ to do is to ensure that we encourage our members to aspire to professional enhancement so that they can have upward career mobility. I think that's very important. We have quite discussed this effusively and have agreed that instead of it being in the law, the act, we can have it in the code of practice. And I think that's a win-win kind of thing. The media has also been concerned about the use of the public interest in the bill. The public interest, we all seem to understand it, but legitimate concerns have been raised that under President Julius Maada Bio might use it for all the right reasons, but some other person might come tomorrow and will widen the goalpost, to give it very amorphous definitions. So for that reason, there have been calls for us to adopt a working definition for the concepts of the criminal libel. I note Basita is here. She wrote back her thoughts on the bill and forwarded to us. I mean, most of that, together with the SLAJ views, have been taken on board. SLAJ was also concerned about the removal of sole proprietorship. We have no problems. We can keep that. It can either be sole proprietorship or in partnership, right? Just to calm down, the nerves that were by then getting agitated. So we can have that. So basically, there are a lot of things we have agreed to move up on. But, okay, so we want to talk about the complaints committee. People have said, because we have said the IMC complaints committee should be given the powers of high court. Concerns are emerging that there have to be rules of evidence. Sierra Leone rules of evidence disease. So those calls are coming in that there should be rules of evidence around that. There's also some concern that if you say you are going down that route and in the current act, no appeal, an appeal court appealing the decision of this complaint committee in the appeal court does not put a hold on the IMC ruling. That there has been some concern about that, but that's something we are still talking about. That's a gray area. So There is also, these are days of gender sensitivity. We have said the chairman, and I know some people have had issues with that, so we should say it's chairperson. Even though when I was in school, the definition of a man was man and woman, but they want specificity here. Instead of chairperson with chairman, we call it chairperson. Well, so there has been, I have mentioned the issue around suspension and cancellation of licenses in the public interest. The media is concerned that that's too amorphous. It could make it very possible for people to have an overreach. So that is something we still are talking about. So by and large, that is what it is. So I can now come, that was an overview. I can now come to my presentation. I will ensure I don't go more than 10 minutes. Already His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio has made bold steps in rebranding this country, in repositioning her so that she could attract her fair share of foreign direct investment. This will be an add-on if this repeal process happens. We will be able to attract more investment, like other people have said, in the media. At the moment, because there is a Damocles sword hanging over the heads of the media, not many people will invest in the media because you are not sure along the whole supply chain, right from the editor to the vendor to the publisher, any one of them is game in the face of the criminal libel. So for that reason, we think the media should be unshackled, so that they are able to practice their trade unhindered. I mean, we all are aware of the fact that this was in 1992 about that. The new breed of Dr. Gilles Spencer, who was my lecturer, for calling an article published in the Swedish Expressen by then, who were in college together with most of the leadership of parliament, not the speaker, I really mean the political party leaders. So by then, that publication was called from Swedish Expressen and the new breed. The editors, Dr. Spencer and others, all of them, down to the publisher, all of them were a respected member of the Global Committee of the Nations. Like I mentioned already, by keeping this law on our books, we are in violation of 12 other international conventions to which Sierra Leone is a member. So once we do the repeal, we'll be aligning with all of those things. So what are the key issues that become interesting? Well, for us, this is not a repeal and replace, right? Because already the IMC law was in existence, right? It was already here. So we conflate the issues when we say it's repealing and replacing. We are not repealing and replacing. We are only encouraging, honorable members here to enact a strengthened IMC that will make for more professional practice, right? So that's it. So now, many have wondered, why do we want to do a repeal? Particularly considering the fact that you have more reckless and unprofessional journalists than the professional ones, right? I have been at the receiving end of it in the last few days. Everything has been written about it, but that's for them. I'm like, game. Nobody dares talk to you. I mean, but I also know they are extremely quintessential journalists, right? So we cannot say because of the bad eggs, we cannot do the right thing. It behoves government to take the practical steps to sanitize the media, right? So we are saying, what are the available safeguards, even in the current circumstance? I've had this discussion with my friends and colleagues, both in and out of Parliament. Currently, even without an IMC bill, there are a lot of safeguards, and there are practical examples of the efficacy of those safeguards. We are all aware of the existence of civil defamation laws. He mentioned it while he was making his presentation. Under that law, there are no upper limits to fines. Instead of criminalizing a faceless journalist and end up making him or her a rock star, a celebrity, or an international object, why don't you go for their pockets? It's good to go for the pockets, so nobody tells you, rather somebody is being tried in a civil court, right? But the moment you do it under criminal libel, you generate all of the sympathy. You make the deposit, even if a faceless journalist, a rock star, an instant celebrity. So we are saying, let us go for the civil redress. I mean, there are clear examples here of how it has been used. We all know there's a very senior journalist here. He owns one of the biggest media outlets in this country. A couple of years ago, he was taken to court for libel. That person was fined 30 million leones. For journalists in Sierra Leone, 30 million leones is not something you pay from the back pocket, right? It's probably a fortune. You probably have to do many things to raise it. That person had to pay 30 million leones and also had to, have that the retraction done on the faces of serious papers, many serious papers. So it works. Civil defamation suits work. So I want to encourage all of us to note that apart from the IMC law that we are now strengthening, apart from the criminal libel, there are other avenues for redress. That's one. There is also the Bankruptcy Act. We are all aware of this, the Bankruptcy Act. Yes, the argument is so simple all the time. Journalists are broke, right? So what's the point taking them to court? But if you take them to court and you get judgment against them, you have them convicted. If they don't have anything, they can be declared certified bankrupt. The implications are that even if you are a political journalist waiting to be appointed an information attaché or something, you cannot practice a regulated profession. You cannot be a journalist anymore. You cannot become an accountant. So I'm not sure anybody in their right senses will want this to be fallen because it's about your profession. So there are a lot of available safeguards even in the existing situation. And I know I am heartened by the fact that SLAG recently constituted a disciplinary committee which brings on board very eminent Sierra Leoneans, including members of civil society, to chair it. So they will now ensure that there is strict adherence to professional codes and to professional standards. This, I think, is very, very good. On a normal day, we would not have had need for the IMC, but when attack, defend, and collect becomes a way of life, it's also good to have some mechanisms in place to checkmate practitioners.
That's not the Minister of Information and Communication, Mohamed Rahman Soare. But they talk inside that clip. Now, so the program CTN's Inside Salon go left you for today or the entire program. Listen to the repeat broadcast tomorrow in the afternoon. Me will make the program reach you for today. My name Nalahai Jackson.
Join Radio Mount Oriel for your exciting evening program CTN Inside Salon.